Welcome back to another episode of the Scran Line. I'm Nick, and today I'm going to show you guys how to make this delicious, foolproof, and I'll tell you why in a second, lemon meringue cheesecake. If you're after something that reminds you of like summer flavors and being outdoors even though you can't be right now, this is a perfect recipe for you to try indoors while you're at home. Now, this recipe is actually something I've never tried before. I've never made a baked cheesecake before. I love making no-bake recipes as well as my cake recipes. When it comes to cheesecake, I prefer no-bake cheesecakes because I'm afraid of making baked cheesecakes. But I was determined to make the perfect baked cheesecake and show you guys how to make it as well. Now, the reason I made this 7 times is because similar to when I was learning to make macarons, I kept on getting this recipe wrong and I had to make adjustments and mistakes so that you guys wouldn't have to do that. The first time the cheesecake cracked, the second time the cheesecake burnt, the fourth, third, fifth, sixth time the cheesecakes were just disasters. 7th time I got it right, and this is the recipe I'm sharing with you guys so that you can make an amazing baked cheesecake. Before we get stuck into the recipe, I want to show you guys a little trick. Now, the best way to get nice and juicy lemons is to actually roll them on your workbench before you zest them. If you do that, then when it comes to actually squeezing the juice out of them, it's so much easier. So that's my gift to you today. Let's move on to making the crust. So we're going to be adding some graham crackers and some lemon zest into the bowl of a food processor. We're going to process this until we reach a fine crumb. Then we are going to add our melted butter and we're going to blitz this a couple times just to coat the crumbs. Now, some people bake their cheesecakes dry, so they don't actually bake it in a water bath. I'm going to be showing you the water bath method. One of the things that can happen when you use the water bath method is the water seeping into your delicious cheesecake. You want to avoid that because then you end up with a soggy crust. So the best way to avoid that is to double or triple coat or wrap your springform pan in foil. So it kind of creates a barrier between the pan and the water so you don't end up with a soggy cheesecake. You're going to add the crumb mixture into your springform pan that's been wrapped up with foil 1,000 times. And you're going to use a spoon to just press it on the sides and then on the bottom. Once you've got it nice and even, you're going to pop this in the fridge and let it chill until you're ready to use it. Now, for this recipe, we're going to be topping it with some delicious fluffy meringue. I'm going to show you guys how to make that in a sec. So we're going to be using 4 eggs in the cheesecake mixture and then 2 egg yolks. And from those 2 egg yolks, we're going to be using the whites for the meringue. So separate your 2 eggs, set the whites aside in the fridge, and that's what we're going to be using for the actual cheesecake mixture. To make the cheesecake mixture, you're going to add some cream cheese blocks into a large mixing bowl. So my cream cheese has been sitting at room temperature for about 20 or 30 minutes. It just makes it easier to mix with. You're going to add some cream in there and some sugar. And you're going to mix this using a hand mixer. So that's what I'm going to be using today for this recipe. But if you want to use a stand mixer, you just want to fit it with a paddle attachment. Next, we're going to be adding some lemon zest and vanilla bean paste. You want to mix that in. Now, with the eggs, you want to switch from using your electric machine to a paddle. The reason is because if you mix the eggs in with an electric mixer, you risk over mixing the mixture and you also risk aerating it too much, which can cause your cheesecake to crack and rise unevenly. So let's switch over to using a spatula and we're going to be adding the eggs in one at a time, mixing each one really, really well until you've got all of your eggs in there. Now that your cheesecake mixture is done, we're going to take the tin out of the fridge and we're going to pour the cheesecake mixture into that springform pan. Carefully pop it into a deep baking dish. We're going to fill it about 1 inch with water and we're going to bake this really slowly for about an hour. Once the cheesecake is done, it'll still be a little bit wobbly in the center. If the cheesecake cracks, guys, it doesn't matter because we're going to be covering it, but it shouldn't crack using this technique. If it does crack, it could be something to do with the fans in your oven, or you might need to actually turn the temperature down the next time you make it. Let the cheesecake cool down in the oven for an hour. Don't take it out. It's a really important step and it helps the cheesecake cool down slowly. After an hour, take it out of the oven, take it out of the water bath and let it cool down at room temperature before you pop it in the fridge to chill. For this recipe, I'm going to be using some lemon curd or lemon butter. If you want to learn how to make it and you want to watch me teach you how to make it, click up there. The final thing we want to make for this cheesecake is the beautiful meringue. Now, we're going to be making some Swiss meringue for this recipe. It's a kind of gentle way of cooking egg whites so that they're safe to eat. So you want to begin by filling up a pot about 1.5 inches with water and get it to a gentle boil. Place a heat-proof mixing bowl on top. You're going to add your egg whites in there and your sugar, and you're going to use a whisk to whisk these ingredients together while the water is gently boiling underneath. So if you pop your fingers in there and you can feel no sugar in between your fingers, then it's ready to take off your pot. I'm going to be using an electric hand mixer to whisk this up to stiff peaks so it'll be nice and thick and glossy once it's done. It should take about 5 minutes. Again, if you're using a stand mixer for this part, fit it with the whisk attachment. Once you reach those nice, stiff, glossy peaks, you are ready to put this thing together. Finish it off by adding our beautiful, fluffy meringue on top. I'm using a kitchen blowtorch to toast the meringue, but if you don't have one of these, you can just pop it under your oven grill and gently grill it or brown it that way. So there you have it, guys, my perfectly foolproof lemon meringue baked cheesecake. If you want to make this recipe, I've left a link down below for you guys. Make sure you hit the like button on this video so that YouTube can let others enjoy this video. And I'll see you all on the next episode of the Scran Line.